My name's Devin Galaudet. I'm the editor-in-chief of In the Know Traveler, and I do travel for free. This is terrifying. By the way, I know most of you are speakers, are presenters, are authors, are professional people. I am totally like, when my wife talks about like the money monster kind of thing, like there's a part of me that will forever be sort of like the wrong side of the tracks kind of character. So the fact that I get to speak to you is incredibly humbling and moving for me. I'm actually having sort of like an emotional reaction to this. I don't consider myself a speaker, so to follow like PhDs with slide presentations, who can pronounce presentation, and my wife, who's done this so many, many times, is just like, wow, how does life happen? How did I get here? And so I just feel blessed and honored and terrified and excited and enthusiastic. So the bad news is, I don't know what the heck I'm doing up here. Like, I brought notes. I don't know if I'm going to look at them. I have nothing to point at, so I'm just going to be standing here, and you can boo and hiss if you need to. I'll feel better about that, I'm sure. The good news is that I know travel, and I have, in fact, traveled on 85, maybe 90 trips around the world for free, 50 different countries. Probably at a value of somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000. By being here, I missed a free, all-expensive paid trip to Stowe, Vermont for skiing. So, I mean, I love travel, and I've kind of made it my life. So I think probably what I'm going to do is tell you some stories that will kind of give you a sense of what it is that I do. It's not a huge secret. As a matter of fact, it's kind of funny that, like, I looked on the little note card that Viki handed out saying, you know, like, who's speaking on what, and it's like, I'm offering the #1 secret, and I'm like, what is that? I'm not even 100% sure what the #1 secret is. I wrote it, and I had to try to go online to find out what it was, and I have no internet connection. But don't worry, there will be a #1 secret. There will be a #1 secret. There will be things that I will absolutely tell you what to do. I am not... like, my wife can get into stars and the mystical universe, and I'm just kind of like, do this other thing, do this third thing. I don't have anagrams for you know, my process, any of that stuff. Like, I love it and appreciate it, but again, I'm kind of the wrong side of the tracks guy, so the fact that I'm standing here is a bit of a miracle within itself. So I think I probably want to start by exemplifying that wrong side of the tracks, because, and I'm not going to talk about travel for a minute. I'm going to talk about another miracle in my life, and I hope you don't mind indulging me for a couple minutes. My father was a liar, a thief, and a con man. And that's like straight up fact. My father used to sell the oil wells. I don't know if you're familiar with Los Angeles at all. A strip of road that kind of connects Los Angeles to Inglewood, and there's a lot of oil wells. And when I was young, my father used to sell those oil wells. They were not his oil wells. So he used to do, like, I'd wake up in the morning some days, and there would be 50 sets of skis. Nobody skied in the family. There would be just a series of weird things that we don't talk about this to the neighbors. And when he died about 12 years ago, I got this strange call. I hadn't spoken to him for a number of years because to be quite honest with you, growing up, he was my hero. He was my father, and no matter what he did, I wanted to be like that. So the crazy, violent, drunk, nut bird, dishonest, all that stuff, I wanted that because that's what men were supposed to be. Nailed it. The good news is there was a point in my life where I realized that probably wasn't the direction my life would be good moving forward with, and I needed to make changes. And gratefully I did. But what had happened was, right when he died, I got a call from what I eventually found out was his 7th wife. And she let me know that his last request was to return home to Cadiz, Spain. And, I hung up the phone, and, my father was not Spanish. He probably had never been on an airplane or a boat in his life. He had certainly never been to Spain. And all of a sudden, I ended up with this sack of my father, and I decided to bring him home to Cadiz, Spain, whether he was Spanish or not, because he's Spanish now. And so I made a call. Actually, I made 2 calls. The first one was for a magazine. I was a brand new writer, and I called up this trade publication that I had been writing for, not a huge magazine, a magazine that none of you have probably ever heard of before. And I said to that editor, hey, I'm that guy who wrote this article about the crunchy cookie in Canada. I need to write an article about Spain. And he's like, well, why? Have you been to Spain? No. But my father needs to be scattered off the coast of Cadiz. Can you help me? And he goes, hold on, let me get my Rolodex. And then I made a second call. And I called the Tourism Board of Spain. I said, hi, my name is Devin Galaudet. You probably never read that story about the crunchy cookie in Canada. And they said, no. And I said, I need to write about Spain. And I'll write about anything. Because I didn't have any money. And that's the other thing, is that from where I'm standing, the idea of taking a bunch of trips costs a bunch of money. It costs a certain measure of success that from where I was standing, I didn't think I was necessarily going to find just by having buckets of cash rain down from the sky, unless I was a little bit more like my father, and I wasn't. So what I ended up doing is I called up the tourism board and I said, I want to write some stories. And they said, you know what? Can you promise something? And I said, I can. I've got this one magazine that will publish a story about Spain for me. And they said, we just had a slot open up to, in Sevilla. Would you like to go to Sevilla? And I said, yes. And they said, oh, by the way, would you like to go to Andalusia? Or not Andalusia, they mentioned Cadiz. And I said, yes, I have to go to Cadiz. I'm dying to go to Cadiz. And then I oozed all kinds of enthusiasm about a place that I had never been and knew absolutely nothing about. And so within a short amount of time, I find myself on these cobblestone streets of Old Town Cadiz with my father. And I had gone to the tourism board of Cadiz with this backpack along these cobblestone streets, and I said, mi padre es muerto en la bolsa. That means my father is dead in the bag. And necesito cantante para Ave Maria. That means I need a singer to do Ave Maria for my father. And they all stopped what they were doing. Then 2 weeks later, they gave me a rental car. I drove around southern Spain with my father. We had a buddy picture that was with a dead buddy, but a buddy nonetheless, and I got to call him names, sitting in a blue backpack where I kept him. And so when the final day came, I wasn't wheeling. I actually had left him in the car. And I remember going up to the tourism board because they found me a singer. Actually, they said, we have the first mezzo-soprano singer from the Sevillan Opera House who will come out and sing Ave Maria for 600 euros. And I said, forget that. Go find me somebody who works at an ice cream store. So they found somebody who could, who was like at a local conservancy. Anyway, long story short, there was a point where there was a moment where these tourism folks from Cadiz, quite literally, because I just broke down, like all of a sudden I realized I had anger issues with my father and that I loved him, and this was still hard. And I remember them at some point kind of finding me and them saying, you're not going to do this alone. We will hold you, and we will love you, and we will mourn with you. And then I walked down those cobblestone streets, and I went to the shady tree where I had parked my little blue Spanish-made car, and it was gone. And that really sucked. Can I be honest? That sucked a whole lot. So, what does this have to do with traveling for free? Is that the reason why I was able to take my father to Cadiz, Spain, so he could be the Spaniard that he never was because I got that free trip. I've gotten numerous free trips all around the world. I've done that without money, without fame, without prestige, without a particular pedigree, without a particular education. I was a terrible high school student, and that was enough for me. So I wasn't particularly well educated or anything else, and for the most part, it was all a crapshoot. So I think probably the most important thing that I want to share with you, because not only have I gone on trips around the world, and I'm talking from the moment I am in the air to the moment that I land, everything is covered. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all the best attractions. I have interviewed presidents and kings, all kinds of crazy stuff. I interviewed the president of the Philippines, a guy named Duterte, who hates Americans in the Philippines when he was like killing drug dealers in Davao City, but that's another story entirely. So I've had the good fortune to be around the world without the kinds of things that what most world travelers have in their back pocket, some measure of clout or something, and I didn't. And my website that I had started was just this kind of silly thing that I did, and I kind of want to tell you about that for a second because it makes sense. Matter of fact, before I talk about that, no, actually, this is the part that I do want to talk about, is that not only have I done it, I've traveled on numerous trips. I've also had other people travel on my behalf all around the world. I know lots of people who've traveled all around the world for free, and so this is a real thing. And I guess I'm long-winded for starters, but really, like when we get right down to it, you can do this today if that's what you choose to do. You don't have to. And I would say that the vast majority of people that I have this conversation with are going to go, wow, I totally want to do that. And they'll have this really fantastic feel-good moment right here, right now. And then they'll walk out the door and they're not going to take another piece of action, which is kind of a frightening thing. I think that, you know, certainly with relationship to my father as well as other people I've lost during the course of my lifetime, the only thing of value that I've really learned we honor those we love by leading a good life. And so I've decided to do whatever it is that I can to have something that I can enrich other people's lives. I believe that love is an act of service. And so for me to be of love, I have to kind of share this message because I want you to have a good life as well. That all said, when I started doing this, I didn't have all the kinds of things that I want. I'm sorry. I'm not sure if I should be using this mic because it's kind of going in and out. So I hope you can hear me. Yeah? Good. Good. So the first time I had ever taken a trip, it was actually to Mexico. And I remember I wasn't a writer, I didn't have any particular talent, I wasn't a videographer, I didn't have any of the kind of things that a lot of people have, not only professionally, not just on a personal level, but professionally either. And what I ended up doing is I started begging and pleading. I called up a magazine and I said, I want to write for you. And they said, we don't need you. And I said, I totally get that, but one day you're going to be in a bind, and if you are, please think of me. And they said, yeah, no, that sounds terrific, but I have 800 writers. I don't need another one. I said, I totally get that, but one day you'll be in a bind, and if you are, think of me. And this went back and forth a number of times until they hung up on me. And then 2 months later, I got a call. And the call was, I'm in a bind, and I thought of you. And then what they said was, can you be in Mexico on Thursday and do you have a valid passport? And I said, yes, I do. How much will it cost me? And there was a chuckle on the other end of the phone. And they said, don't worry about that. We'll send you all the details. And sure enough, a guy with one of those 3-star hats like a general showed up with a sign that said Devin Galaudet, spelled correctly, at the gate of Cancun. And I got out, put me in the chauffeur's limousine, the chauffeured limousine. They took me out into the middle of nowhere in this fantastic 5-star resort outside of Cancun. And I had one of those rucksacks with all the patches on it, and I threw it on the counter, and they were like, Mr. Galaudet. And a whole line of people lined up in front of me, and they gave me like a cold compress and a lei of flowers and a tropical drink. And then the assistant manager came over and put his arm around me and walked me off to the side and said, Mr. Galaudet, anything you want. And I said, I need a patch that says Mexico on it, and I want all the lyrics to Cuando Caliente de Sol. He looked at me like, I can do that. And I got that patch, and I got that lyric, and certain things emerged. And this is probably one of the most, if you take one bit of information away from anything that I say right now, it is this. Value equals leverage. Every hotel, this hotel, if I called them up and I said, hi, my name is Devin Galaudet. I'm the editor-in-chief of In the Know Traveler. We cover 189 countries around the world, and I want to help promote your hotel. They will take my call. They will answer my email. And so I know this is about sort of like sounding like, well, you're a travel guy, you're a travel editor. You can do that, and you can. But who's here is a writer? Probably everybody in the room is a writer, has the ability to write. And what's beautiful is that there was a time where you had to write well. That's over with. You can be a blogger, which means you're somehow above and beyond the rules of grammar, which is a wonderful thing. But it doesn't end simply there. You can be a writer, you can be a photographer. Do you have to be a great photographer? No, you don't. Do you have to be a world leader in the travel industry? No, you don't. Videographer? No. I went to a 3-week trip that included Hong Kong and Macau because a guy that I knew said to me, hey, can you shoot videos? And I said, sure. I already had a camera, so I went to Macau and shot a bunch of videos, and they were thrilled, and they love me in Macau. So my point is that whatever it is that you can provide value to, I mean, is that the number one secret? Sure, let's make it the number one secret. Leverage equals value. And so what I've been able to do is I reach out to the tourism boards, and this is part you may want to write down. You contact every tourism board, or every country in the world pretty much has some tourism board that they have money. And the basic way it works is this. The tourism board has a bunch of cash, and that cash is going to be doled out to some PR firm and people that can provide value of some sort. Some of that money goes to large corporations who will then be able to somehow present the country as the place to go. But they also need something that the corporations can't provide, and that is a real, human, honest, reliable, authentic voice. And every person in this room has that ability. So if you were to do something today, I would honestly say, because not only are there sort of national tourism boards, but there's also what's called CVBs, Convention and Visitors Bureaus. There are attractions. There are hotels of all kinds that are competing with every other hotel across the world for your vacation dollars, and billions of dollars are at stake for this stuff. So basically what's happening is there's a certain amount of money that every tourism board have. The tourism board of Manzanillo, I guarantee you, is a place There are people that are working at it right now, and they are trying to figure out 2 minutes. They're trying to figure out exactly how they can get somebody like you there. It is not a complicated thing. Again, what I do is I write a little letter that sounds a lot like an elevator pitch. Devin Galaudet in the No Traveler, 189 countries around the world. Allow us to help promote you. How can we serve you? So think of the leverage is value model. Think in terms of what kind of value you can reliably deliver. And it could be anything. Really, it's also great ideas. Again, I can talk about this forever, but one of the things that you saw yesterday was my wife and I, or at least some of you, and by the way, thank you so much, Viki. What a wonderful, exciting event. That was really remarkable. I called up, my wife and I were taking a personal vacation, and quite literally I wrote a number of the countries we were going to. And I said, hey, I'm Devin, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I'd love to come to your town. And I'd like to get, I think it was hotel rooms and a couple other things because we had also gotten free airfare. And they had said, and I said at the end of it, P.S., by the way, do you have a Shady Glen and a hobo? Because my wife and I are going to get married there. And almost everybody said, we can do better. So we've had some fantastic, unbelievable weddings all around the world that included hotels and food and restaurants and all that stuff, and mostly because at this stage of the game, I can provide a certain amount of value based on my website, but I also have writers traveling based upon the power of my website. People that I don't know contact me all the time and say, hey, I have a trip. Do you want an article on X? And the answer is yes. So if you are actually interested in starting out, I would suggest you go to your hometown. I suggest that you contact the local CVB. I suggest that you say, hi, I am an influencer, and then fill in the blank. Photographer, writer, documentarian, it doesn't matter. Pick your poison. Because even, and that was the thing that I was trying to mention with the weddings, is that perceived value becomes really valuable when it comes through. So when I'm like, hey, my wife and I are getting married under a Shady Glen with a hobo, they're like, how can we utilize that to help promote us? I mean, we are in magazines of tourism boards based on their wedding sites. We've done that, and that's value for them. They didn't even know they wanted that value. I didn't even know I wanted that value. So anyway, I think that's probably my time. I'm up 0. There's a big red circle, so I know there's a big X in front of me. But thank you so much. And the most important thing is, if you have the mind to do it and you have additional questions, I'm going to be here for a little while longer, and I would love to get to know you. Thank you so much for your time.
And Devin, don't go far. Devin happened to be one of the authors in Are You the Missing Piece book. And what we do with every single book that we actually produce is we donate a portion of the proceeds to a worthwhile charity. And I'm happy to say that we have representatives here from the Santiago Foundation, right? You want to come down? I'm going to have them introduce themselves and tell you just a little bit about what this wonderful organization does for the local people and children here in Manzanillo. And then we will award them. Devin, I'll have you award them with their check.
Thanks so much for having us. The Club Santiago Foundation helps our Mexican friends really every day, all year long. And there's 2 schools for learning, one in Naranja, one in Club Santiago. And when I toured these schools, I saw many, many, many families learning, whether it's cooking or guitar lessons or cosmetology. We do piñatas, we do balloon making, and each of the people that are able to take these classes takes these skills back out into the community and are able to get better jobs. So for instance, a gentleman who took the cooking class, he became a baker and supported his family through that. Another gentleman who took the English class was able to get a job at a hotel because he was bilingual. So it's really, really very special. And what I saw when I toured was a safe place for families to come together and learn day in and day out. So exciting for your donation because every dollar goes to running the school. The foundation that oversees it doesn't take a penny from that. It's pretty special when 100% of your donation goes to support the people that it's intended to. So thank you so much for thinking of the foundation. Really very special. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And on behalf of all of our authors and Are You the Missing Piece, here's a book with a dedication to the school in the front and a check that we were so happy to provide on behalf of all of our authors, many who are here today. Give yourselves a hand. This is wonderful. And we're going to break for lunch in the cafe right down, I think it's upstairs, one area. So if you can stay for lunch, we'd love to have you stay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, and Devin, thank you so much. Wait. It's not over yet. It's not over till it's over. Thank you.